The Browns are signing former Steelers, Panthers, Ravens, and Texans wide receiver Deontay Johnson after the NFL draft. And my two immediate thoughts are, one, I'm not very surprised. The Browns needed some help at wide receiver. They did not address that in the draft. And two, I don't like this. I don't like it because Deontay Johnson has not been able to stick anywhere. He has played for 4 different teams since 2023, and I feel like the Browns need to get away from some players with big character red flags and not go down that path and refuse to learn their lesson since they continue to be on the wrong end of the consequences of those types of player acquisitions. Now, Mike Garafolo, the first two, and I think it's important to note, and I'll be curious to see when the signing becomes official. Because if you sign players after May 1st, it does not impact your comp formula, the compensatory draft pick formula, for the next year. So if the Browns would have lost a bunch of guys in free agency, but then they signed a bunch of guys, that kind of offset. So you're going to see a lot of signings where a team announces, we are signing this guy. I don't think anything will come official until after May 1. Plus, the Ravens, those sneaky little bastards, they actually signed Johnson when they were in the playoffs. And keep in mind, he was on that team like 8 weeks earlier, a playoff-bound team, and he had an absolute meltdown over not getting enough receptions or targets. So like, all right, you're done. Cut him. Goes to the Texans. They're going to the playoffs, and then he can't even stay there. And they're like, all right, we're done with you. You're done. And then the Ravens bring him back, and everyone's like, what? But then we learned, oh no, it was just a really good move by Eric DeCosta, because then once he would inevitably be a free agent after the year, he would be viewed as a Ravens free agent. So if any team signed him, it would be a benefit to the Ravens comp pick formula. So I sure hope the Browns don't do this before May 1st and then give the Ravens a little added draft pick for next year since they lost a player in free agency technically. Now, we're going to talk more about Johnson as a player and everything you need to know about this. But really quickly, this is why you subscribe to the channel. True story. Me and Reed were backpacks zipped up, ready to walk out because we were going to go to Texas Roadhouse to celebrate a very successful NFL draft. And then Johnson signed with the Browns. So backpacks back on the ground, laptop out, camera rolling, and we're filming a video. So join well over 44,000 subscribers strong here at the Cleveland Browns Report. So getting back to Johnson, his best season with Pittsburgh was in 2021. And I'd say that's what people know him best as. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Then he started to go downhill, right? He was flipped from Pittsburgh to Carolina. The Panthers held on to him for not even a full season before they traded him to the Baltimore Ravens, who then cut bait with him after a little bit, goes to Houston like we talked about, back to the Ravens, and now he is on his 3rd AFC North team. I went to college at Toledo. He's from Florida, I believe, so it's not like it's a Buckeye, state homecoming for him, but he just has not been able to stick anywhere, and I think that should tell you everything you need to know about this. But the Browns, they always look for talent. They look for guys who are former early draft picks, players that may have a couple of red flags around them, and they put that all to the side, and they are just looking at players like they are numbers. And no surprise when you got the guy from Moneyball kind of running your team, that's the line of thinking. And I feel like the Browns have not learned their lesson from that mistake, right? They selected Perion Winfrey in the NFL draft. He had some character concerns coming out of Oklahoma. He doesn't even make it to the second year of his NFL career with the Browns. Then they draft Mike Hall. He had some character concerns coming out of Ohio State. Then he's arrested for a domestic violence dispute during training camp of his rookie season and is suspended for a good chunk of games. And I didn't even talk about number 4 on the Cleveland Browns roster. So, at some point, you do have to take into account, hey, Barry, I know a lot of these guys may have a lot of talent, but if they're not going to stay on the field for you because they are an absolute cancer or head case in the locker room, is it really worth the headache? My answer is no. But Cleveland did need help at wide receiver. The Browns wide receiver room just did not have a lot of, I wouldn't say firepower to it, but overall depth more importantly to it. Like, I think there were some, good pieces at the top here with Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, but then you've got Mike Woods as your wide receiver 3. Is Jamari Thrash, your 5th-round pick last year from Louisville, going to make a big step forward in year 2? David Bell, former 3rd-rounder himself, he missed most of last year with a hip injury. Yeah, the Browns' wide receiver room is not very good. And so, sure, if you are just getting in a vacuum 2021 Deontay Johnson with 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns, or 700 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2023, sure, that's really nice. But we don't live in a vacuum. And I feel like the Browns are just not bringing in quality guys for the locker room. They are just searching for players with talent, and I don't think that creates a good, tight-knit group. So that's my concern here. If I had to predict it, I don't think Johnson even makes the 53-man roster. My gut would tell me he's going to miss a practice, be late, be upset about something, and he'll be cut. So I don't have high expectations for the signing whatsoever. To recap, Browns in the draft did not go receiver, which, the funny thing about this is, how often do people complain about teams reaching for players and not going best player available? Ask yourself this question. Have you yourself ever said, I would just take the best player available? I have. And this is usually the result of it. But everyone wanted the Browns to get either a wide receiver or an offensive tackle from this draft class. Did they not do even I wouldn't say a lot of homework, but just basic homework on this draft class? The 2 of the 3 weakest positions in this class were wide receiver and offensive tackle. Why do you think so many tackles went in round 1? It's not because teams looked at them as round 1 players. It's because they knew if you wanted a tackle, get one early. Because once they're gone, there's no more left. And that's why you didn't see a lot of teams find starting caliber guys in rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. You saw a huge rush of tackles and guards and linemen in round 1 because those teams needed them and they were terrified of waiting until round 2 or 3 to get a guy. So yeah, it would have been nice if the Browns got a good tackle, but would you have been okay? Would you have accepted that in 3 or 4 years when you looked back and go, oh, screw Barry, he wasted that 4th-round pick on a tackle who stunk? Okay, well, you wanted him to draft a tackle. There were no good tackles left, but he took one anyway. And the same goes for wide receivers. It was not a star-studded receiver class. There was no MHJ, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Roma Dunze. No. You had Tet McMillan, who some thought could be a late first. He ended up going pretty early to the Panthers at 8. Matthew Golden, JSN. And then after that, Emeka Buka. Sorry, not JSN. Wrong Buckeye. Emeka Buka. And then after that, is there a lot of good receivers that went around 2 or 3? No. So I'm not too upset that the Browns didn't take a receiver or a tackle. Would you have been okay with them just lighting a pick on fire so that they satisfied a need? But in reality, that need's not satisfied because that player does not fill the void that you were looking for out of a receiver or tackle. And you just wasted a draft pick. All right. So to recap, Johnson, I think, competes for Mike Woods for that wide receiver 3 job. If David Bell is healthy, although a hip injury is a tough thing to bounce back from, it's really an open season right now. Across the board, all these guys right here. Johnson tore his Achilles a few years ago. Bell's coming off a hip injury. Johnson's a head case. Jamari Thrash, we saw barely of his rookie year. And then I got some UDFAs at the bottom of the depth chart. So it's a good time to be a wide receiver looking to make a roster spot in Cleveland. So how would you grade the Browns wide receiver room? I give it you got Jerry Jeudy, 5th in receiving yards last year. I don't know, a C. I feel like that's kind of being generous. He can't be the only reason why he gets an A for the entire room. He's not Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. By the way, they've got some awesome deals right now at Fanatics, and they also have Cleveland Browns rookie jerseys like Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, and Shedeur Sanders. By the way, I don't think this needs to be said, but just in case you're wondering, no, that is not his number. It's just a temporary placeholder. So when you order the jersey, they're not going to ship it to you immediately. They're going to wait for the player to announce the number. And then once that number is announced, then they mail you the jersey. So go to chatsports.com/CLE rookies. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Now, Let's pick a card so I can go to Texas Roadhouse. I'm going to say 5 of diamonds. King of hearts. I'll see everyone later.